Welcome to the Divorce Devil Podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Rachel. Follow us as we dive into all the positive and negatives of post-divorce recovery. Stay tuned for some real and sometimes raw end-of-the-road divorce topics. Please put on your big pants because we're full of honesty, authenticity, and irrefutable truths.
This progressive podcast ain't for the faint-hearted. Enjoy.
You look good.
I was going to stay out because, you know.
All right, here we go. Welcome everybody out there to Divorce Devil episode 89. Why don't you introduce, I guess?
We have Tracy and more Grant from the, sorry, my brain is going. Why don't you introduce yourself? How's that?
Yes.
We've had some tough technical difficulties and we're both just like, wait, where are we?
Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Podcast situation.
Yes, true.
So, yeah, I'm going to jump in. My name is Tracy Amore Grant, and I am an attorney, a mediator, a guardian ad litem, a parent coordinator, an arbitrator, and frustrated attorney. And so in 2019, I founded an organization called the Amicable Divorce Network.
Perfect. David, okay, so we don't normally compare notes. So we just say, okay, get your stuff together. You've introduced yourself. You said you were a frustrated attorney. Is that what made you do the Amicable Divorce Network?
It is. I was very frustrated with having really nice clients, very good, normal people who would ask me two questions in an initial consult that I couldn't answer. And those were, how much is this going to cost and how long is this going to take?
Right.
And the reason I couldn't answer those questions is because I had no idea who their spouse might hire. And so it could be somebody that I work really well with. That's a normal person that I know that we're going to get a good settlement in a nice, period of time. Or it could be somebody who is really conflict driven, really money driven. And so in that situation, it could be the worst case scenario. We could, not be able to resolve the case until we have a trial and my client spent $40,000. So I wanted to be able to very conclusively answer those very normal questions for people.
So my question is, so what are the qualities that you guys look for when you ask someone to join or someone asks to join? What are the qualities?
Yeah, so we have two ways that a professional can become a member. A current member can recommend them. It's called an endorsed invitation. And so we still make sure that they meet our criteria, but one of our members is saying, I've worked with this person. They're excellent. They have the right mindset that we're looking for. We are the only professional organization or any kind of organization in the entire world that vets divorce industry professionals for actually being resolution focused. So we vet for three different things. One is you're resolution focused, that you engage in fair billing practices and that you're experienced. So whether you're an attorney or an insurance agent, whatever industry you're bringing to our network, we want you to have 5 years of experience in that licensure because we think that level of experience really gives you the qualities that we're looking for and also the ability to deal with people who are often going through a difficult time and emotional crisis.
So you just don't do divorce attorneys only, like the whole gamut?
The network, we have all sorts of different professionals. We have divorce attorneys, mediators, insurance agents, certified divorce lending professionals, real estate agents, mental health professionals, divorce coaches, anybody that touches the divorce industry or helps somebody before, during, or after divorce. They're welcome to be a part of our network. Over time, as we've learned more about what roles people hold in different states or what roles are available, we've expanded membership to different areas that we learn about. So we learned recently that in California, paralegals can do divorce paperwork, and so we added a paralegal category to take care of that.
So depending on the state, go ahead, buddy.
Okay, so you, first of all, describe what the types of divorce there is, because I think people just honestly think it's going to cost me this much. I can't afford to get divorced. I'm just going to stay together. Can you tell us the different types of divorcing?
Sure. So typically speaking, in very general terms, I look at divorce in 3 to 4 different categories, depending on level of conflict is how I gauge it as a divorce professional. So uncontested is a word that people use across the board. And what the public means by uncontested is out of court. And so in the United States, 90% of the parties going through divorces would categorize themselves as uncontested, meaning they want an out-of-court solution. And so that's the market that we're there to service and to help to make sure that they are partnered with the right kind of professional. So that's what the public is seeking, is uncontested. But actually, in a legal reality, uncontested to an attorney means you've come up with your agreement. You have one of those kitchen table agreements, and you just want me to draw it up for you, which we always recommend. Have a professional draw it up, make it legal, make sure those deadlines are in there, that all the documents are signed, because we've seen a lot of nightmares where people don't do it correctly. I did a whole show on DIY nightmares last year for Halloween, so that's uncontested in a legal stance. So then you have this middle ground. And so a lot of people know about collaborative law, which is also a different out-of-court process. We're different than collaborative law, but have that same mindset where we want to solve things outside of court. So amicable is for individuals who want to have an out-of-court solution, but they need help. A lot of people get hung up on, what is the appropriate amount of alimony? How do we calculate child support? We don't know how to phrase this language about a 401k. So what I saw happening were these parties who wanted to reach a good resolution were just going to see an attorney. Perhaps they Googled online and saw the ad that popped up and went to that attorney. And that attorney sees dollar signs in their eyes. Oh, a divorce. Oh, they have high assets. Or, maybe they have minimum billing requirements at their office. And so that very uncontested mind frame for those parties has now turned into a contested divorce because of the professional that was maybe chosen by happenstance. And so we want to take people with that mindset that they really want to reach an agreement, but need some negotiation, need some help, need some ideas, need some professionals to get them to the finish line. The last type of divorce is what everybody knows about, which is what we call traditional or contested divorce, which is you start a divorce by filing in the court system. You have to say bad things about the other party to get what you want. It can take as long as it can take. I mean, usually at least a year. It has an average cost of $27,500 in the United States for one party to get divorced.
Wow.
The average cost of an amicable divorce is $5,000 per party. And so, when you subject yourself sort of to the court system, you're on their deadline. You're bound by a system that pits one party against the other. You have to say bad things to get what you want. You can't go to court and say, I think he's a really good dad. I just have a different idea on what the schedule should be. We need some guidance here on what's good for kids this age, or that's not what happens. You have to say terrible things about the other party, or the judge is going to be like, what are you doing here? So it's not a good system for getting out on the other side with a good parenting relationship with the other party, or really any money in your pocket.
What I'm hearing you say that the amicable divorce pretty much doesn't see the court system to the very end with the papers.
Yeah.
How can it be, what did you say, 90%? Was
90%,
uncontested.
Wow,
Yeah,
I would have thought
No way.
no.
Yeah,
no.
We have too many.
But what do we know? We're not experts.
Yeah.
We don't claim to be either, yeah.
That's what people would say. So, people want to think that they have an uncontested divorce, so that's people's perception.
Gotcha, okay.
The legal reality is that a very small number of people are actually able to come up with a full binding, legally appropriate agreement the judge will sign off on themselves. That's what legally uncontested is. But what people are saying is, we don't want to go to court. I just don't get along with this person anymore, and I know that the court won't give me emotional justice, but I just want to be done with this in the right way. And so that's what the public is saying that they want by using that term.
So do you recommend that people start as an uncontested, can you hear me now? As an uncontested divorce, and then find someone like you? Because I'm not even sure how I would find someone like you, in our state. I know you're in Georgia, and what would you say? Should we start uncontested? Should we start standard, and then can you reverse? Because once you have a lawyer, it's like, nope, you have this retainer and all this fun stuff. But would you recommend that people start in a certain spot to see where it goes?
People are able to have a conversation, try to knock out as much as you can yourselves, obviously. I've had people who've spent a lot of time and heartache on these kitchen table agreements, and they bring it to me, and I'm like, a judge will never sign off on this. So, there are definitely good attorneys out there who will meet with you on an hourly basis. I've done that with clients to say, okay, you've done good so far, so now let's think about this and this, But the Amicable Divorce Network, although I'm in Georgia, we are nationwide. So if you are hearing this in another state, you go to our website and you see there are no professionals there, send us a message. If you are somebody going through divorce, send us a message. Say, I would have loved Amicable Divorce if you had attorneys in Rhode Island, because then when I'm talking to an attorney in Rhode Island, I can say, you would have had this case, if you joined our organization.
Right.
If you're a professional listening to this, I think people are really missing an opportunity to work with that 90% of the population who wants to reach an agreement by not joining an organization that promotes you as that. So, we operated only in Georgia until the beginning of this year, and now we've opened up to the entire United States, United Kingdom, and Canada. So,
how do you handle? Can you represent both parties being attorney, or are you just giving advice? What's the deal with that?
I can't, and we don't recommend that. So, especially in Georgia, an attorney can only have one client. I represent their interests, and I advocate for them in the process. We are what's called amicable advocates.
Okay.
There's a way to respectfully advocate for my client that doesn't involve motions with the court, nasty emails, and name calling. Where I can, advocate that my client would like this certain thing in the mediation process or in the negotiations without being nasty. And so that's, really what we promote. So with the amicable divorce process, each party would have their own amicable advocate, their own attorney. We design the process for the parties. And so if they want it to go really fast, we got to sell this house, somebody's moving, something's happening, we can accelerate it. We can also slow it down. We have parties who, I have a case right now that's been going on for 2 years. They have a special needs child. Sometimes we have to hit the pause buttons for the child to be evaluated or because something has gone on. And the parties are putting the child first, which is always, our focus in this process as well, to have a child-focused divorce. So it's customized for the parties. Do they need a parent coordinator? Do they need a certified divorce lending professional? Do they need a special needs expert like we have in this case? Do we need a small business valuation? So we would call in the required professionals for that case and what they can afford to make sure that they have a very professional but financially reasonable result. Speaking
of children, that's a good point. What's the view of amicable divorce in the needs of the children? How do you keep that focused?
Yeah, so we're very passionate that children should be the focus of the divorce, that getting children through the divorce as happy, as healthy as possible, should, with as little conflict as possible is great. In a contested situation, sometimes kids have to testify in court. In Georgia, that's the rule. You're 14, you got to show up in court and tell the judge who you want to live with.
Wow.
Isn't that awful?
Yes.
Kids in Colorado aren't that, no, that's not going to work here.
Yeah. And it's different, in every state, but the kids get, really sucked into the middle of this. And so we often even have 2 mediations. We have one that focuses only on the children.
Yeah.
Let's work out a parenting plan. Let's talk about the kids. Let's focus on them on this day. And then let's come back an entirely different day to talk about the money, so that those 2 issues don't get intertwined together and that people are fresh for the mediation. We're not doing these marathon mediations and things like that. So even today, I did a presentation. I hosted Rainbows for All Children, an organization that helps with grief for children and really helps with that process. And that'll be on our YouTube next week. It was a live event today. And, they really did a great presentation, for our members. That'll be on our blog about how to help children with divorce. How do children see a divorce? Because what we think as an adult that they're seeing is very different than how they feel that process.
Well, I found, was it TikTok that I found you on?
Well, I think it was
TikTok, and I made a comment, and then she's like, well, I have a podcast also. And I was like, you do YouTube and all this other stuff. I was like, well, it would be great to have you on. And I saw the whole kid aspect. So now if I go to your website, so for listeners out there, we go to your website, we say, hey, there's nobody in our state. What can we do? Do you have like a playbook or a guide for dummies, or someone's overwhelmed, blindsided? Like I feel like I was naive and thought, I've been married to this guy for 24 years. We're going to be able to step by step figure out what we need and what we don't need. Well, early in the divorce, no one was talking to each other. So when we filed, we had a date and then COVID hit. And our date got pushed and then courts were closed. And then we had like one Zoom, but I was still paying my lawyer like we were going to court. So, the mediation, the lawyer, all this stuff, I feel like it's so overwhelming just because we say lawyer and just because we say divorce. Like, is there a template on your website, or is there something that you recommend? Because like we have had a guest too, and I was like, what should we bring to the table when we search you out? Yeah.
Yeah. So, we currently have two different websites. So the one that's the most popular is the Amicable Divorce Network. So if you go to that website, that's actually designed for our professional members to learn about events and read blogs and to, connect on our membership events. But if you're on that website and you see at the top, there's a purple button that says for divorcing couples, and you click on that, that is going to take you to our companion website, which is for the public, and that's called Divorce Amicably. And so that is a resource for the public to learn about amicable divorce resources. It also has our member bank on there. And this has some step-by-step on what the amicable divorce process is. What is the amicable divorce process on this gray tab? It has a little timeline. But if you go through our blog, and I'm happy to post it back at the top of the blog for your listeners, there is a cheat sheet that you would take to a divorce attorney. So,
I asked this question because I, of course, stalked all your things. So I'm like, so tell us how. But yeah, so
I will pin that up to the top for you guys. So I actually had somebody bring this to a consult with me recently.
Your own stuff.
I don't know if they know that I wrote it. I was like sort of peeking at their folder, and I wanted to be like, okay, I understand that the message got across, but like you're checklisting me on my own checklist.
I got you.
Which is cool, So this is a guide for people to prepare for a divorce attorney consult. The number one reason that people do not meet with divorce attorneys and they go do these online forms, which can cause a lot of trouble, is because they're terrified of attorneys.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's a lot of bad eggs out there.
Right.
That's why we're trying to collect all the good eggs and put them in our amicable basket so that people, if they come to our website, you found a trusted professional, you're good. We'll kick people out if they're a bad egg. So we've had to do it. So we want to know that they are being connected with great professionals. But this checklist is the questions that you should ask and what it means. So it has the questions that you should ask yourself before the consult, and then how that matches with what you ask your attorney. So I also have another checklist further down in the blog that I can pin as well. And that one is, sort of some financial red flags, how to prepare for a divorce consult. If attorneys say certain things, certain questions you should ask. So even if you don't have any of our professionals in your area, you can use one of these guides to hopefully, find yourself a good person.
So what happens if the amicable divorce becomes toxic? Can you break out the knives? Can you break out the guns? Can you, or do you give to someone else?
Yeah, so we have done an amazing job in the network that I am only aware of 2 cases that were amicable fails. And so
wow,
to my knowledge, I've only learned of 2 cases that started amicable and had to access the court system. So everyone else that has started an amicable process has stuck with it. And I think that's a good testament to parties really understanding what's important, our professionals and their experience being able to really guide their clients on what's important and keep them on track. Because if things get, everybody's going to have the same emotions. Everything is the same in an amicable divorce.
Right.
You're still upset. Divorce doesn't make you any richer. You still maybe got cheated on. You still maybe, got ignored. You still maybe have this terrible reason that brought you to the divorce. But all you're saying with an amicable divorce is that I'm choosing to resolve it peacefully and out of court, as opposed to the toxic and very expensive court system. So we're still dealing with, high assets, personality disorders,
Right.
Narcissism.
Yes. So that's a very popular one right now. I think we're shifting to the histrionic borderlines, but right now we got all those narcissists we have to deal with. So that is, a testament, I think, to our professionals. So we give them advanced training. For example, this October, we're doing a certified amicable divorce professional training. And so people take 2 days of training that are members, and we deal with identifying personality disorders and how you deal with them, emotional intelligence.
I'll show you.
Yeah. So, we really try to give our professionals just absolutely the best training possible. We call it to keep the hurt in the hurt locker, from that message where they would throw the bomb in the box and it would explode in the box, so that people aren't exploding into the court system, because there's no judge that's just sitting there waiting for your case, to give you that type of justice that you think you're going to find. So people should really stay the course and spend their money on something else. So, save the money you would have spent on your divorce on a cruise or something.
Right. Now, do you have people go the other way, like that start out traditional, they got to court, and then they're like, you know what, we can do this a better way, and then they're like, hey, I've heard about this amicable divorce thing, let's try that. So if you've already, so no, what I'm saying is, if you've already gotten in it and you're like, okay, I got a retainer, I haven't maybe started, or I have a little bit, and you see that it's you can maybe manage it better, because a lot of our people that listen are in the midst of divorce, thinking about getting divorced, or at the beginning of the divorce. So I've gotten a lawyer, and I'm like, you know what, it's not really working. We're actually getting along really well. We're getting the parent plan, because in Colorado, as soon as you file, you have like a certain amount of time to do the parent thing. Then you have to take the parent test. You have to fill out all the information. You have I think it was like 3 weeks that our next date was. And then from there, you go and figure out what you need help with. And a lot of it could be worked out, but a lot of like the financial stuff needed a little bit more. Yep. So I didn't know that, hey, my lawyer's going to cost me $50,000, but if I do amicable, maybe it'll be $50,000, and then we can kind of do the financial stuff more in depth. Or have you had people go the other way?
I actually have. So I had a situation where a client consulted with me, decided not to do an amicable divorce, and went into the traditional court system, and had a lot of negative things going on, court date set, deposition set, formal discovery, talked with her husband. They both agreed to fire their current attorneys, which was their choice. I didn't know any of this was going on. And to then come into the amicable system. And so she hired me, and he hired another amicable attorney, and we just sort of took all the air out of that balloon, really focused on what needed to be done, and got them to reach a settlement probably within, 30 to 60 days. I can't. So
it's not too late. I mean, now you're hearing about it, given some information, and you're like, oh, well, I mean, I don't want to spend 50. Maybe I can just figure this out. And then, we know each other well enough to figure out that, hey, we can resolve this so we can get out peacefully as possible. You had mentioned your horror story, so I had watched a little bit of that too.
I've got a quick question though, before the horror story. So have you ever turned down a client knowing that it's not going to be amicable and it's going to be hell?
Not just that. I mean, I litigated I've been practicing 20 years. I still was involved in litigation. I don't litigate anymore. I'm a non-litigation attorney. I don't even know where to park at the courthouse anymore, which is great. I got to throw away all my suits. So, but yes, I mean, very early on in my career, I think you sort of get a meter of this just isn't worth it. So,
right.
I have always turned down clients that I didn't think were a good fit for me, particularly people I felt were trying to lie. Or if I ever had anybody ask me, how they could get out of child support, or, if they could negotiate more time with the children in order to not pay child support, but really didn't have a legitimate claim. So other different reasons that were red flags for me. Those are clients that I wouldn't work with. Now I only do uncontested and amicable cases. I'm also a mediator. And that's another great thing. If you don't have an attorney in your area, I do divorce consultation to sort of triage your divorce and also sort of get you on the right track, depending what your jurisdiction is. The issues are all the same. And so we can craft that for you. You can always reach out to me directly. But mediation is also a really great way to resolve issues if you just want to have a guided conversation with your soon-to-be former spouse about whatever sort of contested issues have. And mediators are everywhere. And so we can also point you to some organizations to find some great people that will help you out.
Go ahead with it.
So we always discuss, David was a divorce recovery facilitator for a couple of years, and he would have groups of people, and it taught him that his isn't that bad. So yeah. I have, of course, YouTubing, and tell us your best horror story.
General horror story.
General, yeah.
That's hard to know.
I mean, you probably have a lot, but.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, so I had a paralegal, and every now and then she would, remind me of something. I'd be like, I have so much in my brain. Like, I totally forgot about that incredibly terrible thing that occurred. I think you just get desensitized.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the horror story for me, I'll tell you what really sort of jumped off me doing this was I had a client who was relatively low income. She was a cleaner of businesses. That was her whole business. She was had immigrated to the United States. Her and her husband had reached an agreement. She asked me to draw it up. I charge a flat fee for that, type of work. So it was a very, defined amount. And her husband, English was his second language. He asked to take it to another attorney that spoke Spanish. I said, great, do that. Get back to me. That attorney blew up the case, is what we call it. Deposed my client twice, deposed somebody out of state, did all this incredible discovery, which my client had to react to, ended up having to use savings that she had saved for her daughter to go to college to fight this divorce. The husband was apparently bartering with the other attorney for painting services. And when she got all the paintings she wanted, she demanded money he couldn't pay. So he fired her. And they sat down at the kitchen table and talked, and he came in. I didn't change one thing about that initial paperwork I handed him. And it cost an incredible amount of money. She had to sit through depositions and everything. And that to me is like the worst part, like people getting taken advantage of like that. You're already going through a divorce. It already sucks. I'm divorced. Yeah. It's not good. It's not fun. Yeah. You're already down. You don't need people that know better to be taking advantage of you. So we're really trying to weed those people out of the market.
It's definitely one of those clubs you don't want to be in, but when you're in that club, you want other people that have been through it before that can relate to what you're going through. Again, David and I, Divorce Devil is a release for us, a healing process. And a lot of times, like we said, from the beginning of this, I was very angry. And now I'm just like, you know what? The anger, it could have cost me more money if I was angry. Yeah. So, you have to find that peace that you want. And, why do that to someone you said you loved before? Like, you once loved that person, and you need to, like, figure out your own shit, like what we say.
Right. I think what people need to fundamentally understand is that the peace that you're seeking and everybody should be searching for as you go through this, trauma and this breakup and this heartache, is that healing is not going to be given to you by the justice system. No. You're looking in the wrong spot, and you're paying way too much to try to get healed by the justice system. So you should focus on getting a very good, reasonable, professional, informed divorce. If you have assets, you have a house, you have kids, you want to do things properly, but you don't need to overdo it, and use that money that you would have saved on counsel fees for going on a yoga retreat, getting some Botox, doing whatever makes you feel good.
So you can get to your whole phase.
Go get your groove back, whatever it takes. But that good feeling of, I'm on my way, I feel better, I'm healed now, is not going to come to you from a courtroom.
And I think,
it just
part of the big thing too is resources. Like, I didn't know a lot of the things until I was on the podcast. And my TikTok basically is like how to help others. And I'm also a nurse, and I'm, a mom, and, so there's a lot of information out there, but it's so like, here's a piece of it, but it's not exactly what I need. And here's another piece of it. And if we could bring it all together in something like this, it really is like, hey, there is a resource out there that can help you no matter what stage of your divorce. If you're thinking about divorce, and again, we advocate, if you can be married, try to work it out. But if it comes to the point where, you're on your way to that, this is a great resource. There's lots of links. There's YouTube. And from that, we might have professionals out here that can, help others. We always say if we can help one person, it's worth our time. And, so.
It's almost like the Amicable Divorce Network can help you heal faster or heal better or not as traumatizing. But,
it takes some of the anger out because you're like, what? No, it's not going to cost me $50,000.
Yep.
And again, if it costs you 10 compared to that, because, it really does, make a difference. And you, like you said, I got out of my marriage and realized I have a car that's, very old. And at some point I'm going to do it, but I didn't really have money to get the car I wanted. So I waited and waited. And there was a lot of, there was one time we talk about this often, that I had $27 in the bank coming from a very great socioeconomic marriage, what we had. And then it was one of those things where I was naive, but I was also like, what, the money doesn't define me. If the money can be used to do this, great. But I really had to take, not the cheap way out, but I had to take here's what I have. I need to divorce because, here's what he has. And, this would have been a great, a place to reach out to.
To point out is that, an amicable divorce actually doesn't cost anything. You're paying for the time of the professionals to do an amicable divorce. It's an entire out-of-court process that I designed. But we are utilized by the University of Georgia Family Law Clinic. So parties that don't have any resources can go to the Family Law Clinic, use our process to get a divorce, and those professionals are doing pro bono work with our process to get them divorced.
That is awesome.
That's amazing. Yep. That's amazing.
Yeah. So, you can have an informed, professional, free divorce through law clinics. And, we're certainly open to partnering with, all of them in the world to utilize this process.
Look at that. A little kindness goes a long way. I mean, kindness and divorce. Who would have thought?
I think for me, the two factors of divorce that were the toughest was time and money.
Yeah.
Those two factors can almost make or break a person.
I mean, and David's lasted 18 months.
Yeah.
Mine was 9 months. And that was because it kept, getting postponed because of COVID. Then it lasted 4 minutes on the phone. But there was a lot of times where I'd have to call because I'd get something in the mail. And I'm like, well, are you charging me because I'm asking you a question? Or, I have this much left in my bank, basically, from you. So how do I?
$27, baby.
$27. And it can be intimidating. Do I ask the question or do I ask somebody else? Or do I, who do I go to? Where do I go? And I feel with the template and all that a little bit of guidance goes a long way. And I think because someone has also gone through it too.
Yeah, I think just to, really just even using the checklist to go meet with an attorney, and you don't have to meet with just one person or the person with the billboard or the biggest ad, it should feel like a partnership. It should feel like a friend when you meet with that attorney, that you feel good about that you don't feel like you're meeting with a used car salesman. You feel like you have a teammate.
Yeah.
And so if you don't feel that when you're meeting with an attorney, go meet with another one, because it's like speed dating, try to find
the free app versus the paid for app of dating. It's
that person really is going to guide your life. And one other interesting fact about Amicable is we can do it entirely online. So I have clients, I have no idea how tall they are. And because we meet online, we exchange documents online, we use an online platform called Detour Life, we mediate online, and in most jurisdictions, you can submit the paperwork and get divorced without appearing in court.
Wow.
And so, a lot of people who really enjoy that. I have clients that never took a day off work. They mediated even from their office, and they were at home and they had their dog there, and they just really appreciated, the calming nature of that.
Exactly. I was just going to say that, yeah.
Before COVID, and then when COVID hit, it was, everybody was freaking out, and people had to get divorced because they couldn't, quarantine in place with this person, and we were ready. We were like, we got you. We already got this figured out.
Right.
So it, is a big bonus. And for our professionals too. I mean, we have a lot of that do remote work. They don't have offices, and they can help clients from wherever they are as well.
Awesome. Yeah, because I'm not a very anxious person, but I know a couple of people I know, they're like, I'm not even worried about getting a divorce. It's going to the judge and saying like, I can't stay in this, and then having to face him, or if they're not in the same household anymore, or they're fighting over kids. A lot of anxiety goes into it, and then you're just agreeable. And I think, I can only speak for women, you get up there and you're like, that's not what I want, but I don't want to make waves because you're a judge, and I'm not comfortable
I just want to
here.
be done.
Yeah, I just want to get it over with. And, it's
great.
great.
I hear that a lot, where people they're so stressed and so upset that they just want to be done, and they agree to things that are terrible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, having an amicable advocate on your side to say, let's revisit this offer, it's totally fine. Go take a chill pill, and let's not agree to this because that's not good, to have somebody on your side that's, but doing it in a respectful and hopefully as non-stressful way as possible is always our goal. We're not, people are already arriving at the threshold of divorce pretty low, right? They're pretty beat down, they're pretty sad. And a contested divorce process is, you're going to have to heal from up here, right? It's going to be really awful, and you're going to be poor. So we at least try to make people not worse than how they entered, and give them all the resources that they have to thrive. And some of that takes some personal work, but we certainly by our process don't want to make it any worse on people.
Yeah. Wow, man.
I have one more thing.
Go ahead. And I'm going to say something.
Okay, because I did my homework.
Yeah, no,
and
you
gentlemen.
came ready.
I even used rose gold highlighter.
Is this like what my nickname in high school or something?
Yeah, no, what's your boxes of briefs? That's not the last question you asked?
Oh, no, I got a question for that one.
Okay, no.
That has a 2 cocktail minimum.
Well, we want to do a drunk one, so maybe we'll invite all of our guests back on. What's the biggest mistake people make early on when, besides not calling y'all or going to check out your website?
I think they make a choice in hiring the wrong divorce professional would be the biggest, number one. Number two is not investigating the different processes available to them. People think court is the only way to go. So I think first you have to really think about, what is the process I want? Am I going to look for uncontested, amicable, collaborative mediation, or am I going right to court? And really think about that, and think about how you want to be at the end of your divorce.
Right.
And then find a professional that aligns with your goals. So really question yourself first.
Yeah.
And really, it's not how do you feel right now, but how do you want to feel at the end of the divorce, and which process is going to get you there the best, and then find somebody that is a good partner with you for that process.
I think there's a big stigma too, like, if you have the less expensive lawyer, or he has the more expensive lawyer, you're automatically going to lose because that guy has more, bullets or whatever. And I think people, like you said, really need to research and check this out. And, we also want to inform, get the word out that it doesn't have to be terrible, especially in a terrible situation, and,
a lot of our attorneys charge flat fees.
Right.
So there's no,
that's cool.
hourly rate at all, no bills. So
that's awesome. All right, David, what's your...
Well, my last thing was I hired a female attorney thinking that things would be easier. Wink, wink. My God, not even close. Not even close. Yeah.
I'm sure there's female attorneys that you just because
of
you're
course,
man,
good female
but
attorneys.
that's why you have to weed out.
But I didn't do my
them
homework.
correctly.
So I'm here to tell you that I was one of those.
Don't be a David.
Don't be a David.
Check out Amicable Divorce.
you can put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, don't be a David. Don't be a David, and don't be a Karen. But that's a different story. So we got one last question: peanut butter, crunchy or smooth? Ooh, what a tough one.
Smooth.
Smooth.
Dude, you really asked that question. You know I'm allergic.
What's that tell you?
We do not go over the things before. We try to keep it raw and real. And
so we want to thank Tracy for being on the podcast. I learned a lot
so
again.
informative. I know we really are trying. We've only been doing this for like a year.
Yeah.
And we're really trying to,
regardless of our...
We try to be funny most of them, but we really want people to say, hey, they're not just healing themselves. They're giving you resources. We're, stepping out of our comfort because, the whole lawyer thing was intimidating, especially because my spouse made a lot more money than I did. And I was like, well, I'm going to lose no matter what. I'm not going to get my kids. And he would threaten my kid, like, threaten because of COVID, I lost my job. He's like, well, you don't have anything. How can you take care of him? I'm like, okay, well, you're the one, this and that. And so there was a lot of that. And then all of a sudden I'm like, this either has to stop or I'm going to have to pull out. I'm going to have to figure something else out because it's not working for me. It's making all of our kids stressed out and me stressed out. And I had my first panic attack, like all these things that happened that I think I was naive and I wasn't really aware of all the things around me. And I got aware. And how did I do that was from the podcast. And, when you do a topic, you have to really search what you feel about the topic. And it has changed a little bit, but most of our stands are, let's get the word out. Let's help people. And, when I saw you on TikTok, I was like, oh, we got to get her on here.
Oh, yeah,
she's like,
on me, man.
I'm like, oh, we have
Tracy
to
who? Tracy who? Yeah. So our big thing is, it's crazy and all, but if we can help one person, then it's worth podcasting.
Yeah.
Every week.
And you get to
just
see
one
me,
person.
so,
Well, yeah, that too. But any parting words?
I have lots of parting
Oh, yeah, you'll
do
be
you
over
have
a half
anything
hour.
that you would, what's the one thing you want the masses to know about you, your network, the big picture of divorce stuff?
Yeah, just check out your options. Do try to explore. You get no harm from starting an amicable divorce. If the other party will not accept it, then you get to stand in court with a letter that says, I sent them a letter on this day saying I wanted an amicable divorce and they chose something different. So you're at least getting some ammunition. But, choose wisely. Think about your future. Take anger out of it. Take your emotion out of it. Just sit for a little while. Don't, run out and file something with the court system unless you have, obviously, a domestic violence or financial emergency. But take a moment and really decide how you want to be on the other side of your divorce. What do you want your finances to look like? What do you want your emotional health to be like? And understand that the court system is not going to improve either of those. Really just choose wisely. And I'm always available. You can email me at Tracy at amicableddivorcenetwork.com. You can refer professionals to us. If you're listening to this and you had a great professional in your case.
He's Clark Lawyer and one of our guests.
Oh, yeah. We've had the honor of having two awesome lawyers in a row.
Yeah, he's in Florida and him and his wife do something similar. And, but the network, I think the network, you feel like you have a army behind you. And it's really, and just make that, we're going to put up all your links, all your, YouTube, all that stuff too. And also the children.
We are, or I am.
Oh, well, he is. I'm like, should we turn it on yet? Okay. And then the children's thing that you do, people who want to donate, help children out, whatever. I don't know how it works, but, great cause. My son right now is going through some anxious stuff where he's actually hair pulling, and we have him going to speak to someone, and it's 2 years out, and now it's happening because Dad's got a new relationship, and things are it's so the children really are. We are big advocates of don't be jerks to each other, especially because of the kids. The kids are not, but it's So
Perfect.
You all can get a hold of her with all of our links and everything like that, and check her out. And, check out her TikTok. If you're the younger generation, TikTok.
Cool kids divorced on the
Ticker talk, yes.
Ticker talk.
All right,
my
Tracy.
a little.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much.